Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. We are coming to you live via Facebook streaming, via YouTube streaming, and also via Skype online. Each one of you is welcome to this live streaming. Continuing on Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, the question relating to what is self-actualization. It said self-actualization has 3 steps. Number first, centered. Number 2, balanced. Number 3, blissful. A total man is centered. Normally we do things, but we are unaware of what we are doing. We are doing things like a sleepwalker or unconsciously. Why does this happen? I do not know. A total man is always centered. Centered means the moment you are centered, you are aware of every circumference, because each circumference, whatsoever we are doing it on this surface, outwardly, is related to circumference, and each circumference is connected to the same center. The distance between the center and the circumference, different circumference may differ, and certainly it must differ, because no two circumference can be overlapped. For instance, on the surface you are doing a talk with someone. This is one circumference. You are cooking food is another circumference. You are making love. The distance between each act and your center differs, but you are aware of your center. You are centered whatsoever it is. Whether you are cooking, whether you are talking to someone, whether you are driving, taking a shower, speaking to someone, making love, sleeping, these are some of the activities that we perform on a day-to-day basis. We are centered. If this mind is functioning, so centered means mind is not operating, you are not thinking. Thinking goes on in the head, is a part of the head. He remains centered in his navel. How can you remain centered in your navel? As soon as you are centered, you will find that your breathing becomes very slow. It starts reaching to the solar plexus. If you place your hand over the solar plexus, you will realize that there is an up and down movement in that. The center is never missed. If that be the case, it is like you are going somewhere. Wherever you go, you always keep the key of your house with you. You do not miss the key for the house because that's where you have to return. You have the key of the house, whether you are going to the bank, to the market, to any concert, to any place out of town, but you keep the keys with you. So you keep the keys with you, you go to the bank, you go to the market, you go to the shopping complex, and you come back. So it is like you are centered, but certain things you have to do in the kitchen, so you have to use a different mechanism. You have to go to the head. He uses the heart, but he never moves to the heart. You take your keys of the house, you go to the bank. Do you move to the bank permanently? Do you move to the shopping complex permanently? These are the things where you go to perform certain activities. You need to do certain things, so you go to the bank, you go to this place and that place, and you come back to do your work. So in the same way, man who is centered, he never moves to the heart. He never moves to the head permanently. He uses the heart, he uses the head, but never moves to those places. All these things then become an instrument, but he remains centered. And when somebody is centered, definitely he is balanced. Of course, when one is centered, balance is the fragrance of centered. His life is in deep balance, harmony. He is never one-sided. Sometimes you find that there are certain people, their decisions are very accurate. He is never at any extreme. He remains in the middle. Buddha has called this as the middle path. He remains always in the middle. A man who is centered will always move. A man who is not centered, he will swing to the left or to the right. He will go to the extreme. When he eats, he will eat much. When he overeats, he can fast. But right kind of eating is impossible for him. Fasting is easy. Overeating is okay. He can be in the world, committed, involved, or he can renounce the world, but he can never be balanced at any point in time. He can never remain in the middle. Because if you are not centered, you do not, without being centered, you do not know what is meant by middle. A person who is centered is always in the middle in everything, whatsoever he is doing. Never at any extreme. Because he says eating is important, but his eating is right eating. He never overeats and neither fasts. His labor is right labor, never too much or too little. Whatsoever he is doing or being, he is always in the middle. First thing is, self-actualized person will be centered. Second, he will be balanced. And the third follows centering and balance. He will always be at ease. Whatsoever be the situation, the at-easeness is never lost. I say whatsoever the situation, unconditionally, the at-easeness will never be lost, because one who is at the center is always at ease. Even if death comes, he will be at ease. He will receive death as one receives any guest. If misery comes, he will receive it. Whatsoever happens, it cannot dislodge him from his center. That at-easeness is the byproduct of being centered, balanced, and at ease. For a man, such a man, there is nothing trivial. Everything is great. Everything becomes sacred, beautiful, holy, everything. Whatsoever he is doing, whatsoever, it is out of ultimate concern, as if it is of ultimate concern. Nothing is trivial. He will not say this is trivial, this is great. Really, nothing is great, nor anything is small or trivial. The touch of the person is significant. A self-actualized person is balanced, centered, and this changes everything. The very the very touch makes it great. If you observe a Buddha, you will see him walk, and he loves walking. If you go to Bodh Gaya, where Buddha attained enlightenment, on the bank of the river Niranjana, to the place where he was sitting under the Bodhi tree, you will see the place of his steps has been marked. He would meditate for 1 hour, then he would walk around. In Buddhist terminology, this is called Chakraraman. He would sit under the Bodhi tree, then he would walk. He would walk with a serene attitude. His walk is a graceful walk, as if he is meditating. Everything is a grace. Someone asked Buddha, why do you do this? Sometimes you sit with closed eyes and meditate. Then you walk. Buddha said, sitting in order to be silent is easy. One can be very easy while sitting silently. You can close your eyes. Sitting in order to be silent is easy, so I walk. But I carry the same silence within when I am walking or I am sitting. I sit. But inside I am same silent. I walk. But inside I am same silent. I am at the center. Whatsoever I am doing, and what is the center is your navel, solar plexus. When you are at ease, your entire whole breathing goes to these centers. Your solar plexus, if you place your hand over it, there is a movement up and down. In the beginning, it is difficult to decipher, but as time goes on, you become aware of it. The inner quality of a person, whatsoever he is doing, whether he is talking, whether he is doing the business, whether he is driving, everything remains the same. Is that when someone you like comes in, there is a smile on your face, and someone who you do not like, there is a kind of a disapproval of that person's presence is on your mind, on your face. But in case of a person who is centered, it is not. If someone has done something wrong and that comes in that presence, he will greet him with the same. Yes, I will welcome you with the same at ease. But when it comes to the work, I have to review the whole situation. You will be given all that respect that you deserve as a human being. But when my work is to be done, the performance is to be reviewed. And based on that, it will be decided whether it is to be given to you again or not. That's a different matter. But that does not mean that you are not respected. A centered man, for him a Buddha or beggar is the same. You have done certain things, good or bad. Sometimes your intention may not be. Sometimes because of circumstances and situations, you have done this. A man with centering knows about it, sees it. He gives an opportunity, but he is cautious. When meeting a beggar, he is not different to when he is meeting an emperor. It does not matter. The people I have met who had worked with me, many situations we went, but I am not against. Whatsoever happened, happened for a reason. None knows it. This is the reason where I am. Nothing can impede my progress. Nothing can impede my success. Many times I have undergone these serious problems, but again resurrect, come out of that situation, and then as a businessman, I enjoy my highest credibility, whether it is in whatsoever sector I am in, whether it is in government, whether it is banking, whether it is market, or whatsoever is the situation. So, while meeting a Buddha, emperors felt beggars. When Buddha attained to enlightenment and he reached Banaras, the city of that time, it was known as Kashi, the emperor, the king of Kashi, came to meet him. He said, I am the king, but in front of you, I look like a beggar and you are king. Where is your kingdom? Where is your kingdom? Buddha said, my kingdom is within me. When Alexander was coming to India, he met on a bank of the river Diogenes, the naked saint. He said, who are you? I said, I am emperor. But where is your kingdom? He said, Diogenes asked Buddha, Diogenes asked Alexander, if you are thirsty and I have water, how much money you can be willing to give it to me? He said, I'll give you the price that you ask for. He said, if I do not agree with that, he said, then I will increase the price. He said, if I do not want to give it to you still, he said, I'll give you the whole kingdom. Then Diogenes said, what is the value of your kingdom is a glass of water. But I will not give my serenity even if you give me the whole kingdom. When Buddha was alive, every day in the morning, he would say to his disciples, if you have to ask anything, ask. The day he was dying, that morning it was the same. He called his disciples and said, now if you want to ask anything, you can ask. And remember, this is the last morning. Before this day ends, I will be no more. He was the same, composed, centered, balanced, at ease. That was his daily question in the morning. He was the same. The day was the last. He was still same. Just as on any other day. He said, okay, if you have to ask anything, you can ask, but this is the last day. I recall when it was the last time of my great-grandfather. It was afternoon. In the afternoon, he used to take a light snack. He had dry roasted chickpeas, the Bengal gram or the black chana. So he felt a little uncomfort. He sent everyone. You fetch the doctor, you do this, and no one was there. He sat down. His wife was sitting. And he entered into death willingly, knowingly. There was no change of tone in Buddha, but disciples began to weep. They forget to ask anything. Buddha said, why are you weeping? If you would have wept have you ever wept on the other days? It would have been okay. But this is the last day. Today I am leaving. By evening I will be no more. So do not waste your time and ask whatsoever you need to ask. There is no need of wasting time in weeping. Another day, it would have been okay. You could have wasted time. Now there is no time to waste. Why are you weeping? Ask if you have anything to ask. He was the same in the death. So thirdly, a self-actualized person is centered, is balanced, and thirdly, he is at ease under all circumstances and situations. Life and death are same. Bliss and harmony, happiness and sorrows, heat and cold, nothing disturbs him. Prosperity, or the opposite of it. Nothing dislocates him from his home. Nothing disturbs him from his center. Nothing disturbs him from his centeredness. To such a man, you cannot add anything, you cannot take away anything. You cannot take anything out of him. You cannot add anything to him. He is fulfilled. His every breath is a fulfilled breath, silent, blissful, harmonized. He has attained. The flower has blossomed. He has attained to the existence, to the being. He has flowered as a total man. His flowering is not partial or distorted. Buddha is not a great poet. Of course, whatsoever he says is poetry. He is not Khalil Gibran who can compose beautiful poetry. But whatsoever he says is poetic. He is not a poet at all, but even when he moves, his walk becomes a poetry. The way he sits is a poetry. He is not a painter, but whenever he speaks, whatsoever he says becomes a beautiful painting. He is not a musician, but his whole being is musical. His whole being becomes a music par excellence. He has totally attained. Now whatsoever he is doing or not doing, he is sitting silently or talking or doing anything. Even in silence, his presence works. There is an aura around his presence. It is contagious. Even if he is doing anything, even if he is not doing anything, he is creative. His silence is creative. His walk is creative. His movement is creative. This is how he is. Tantra is concerned with total growth, not partial growth. It is concerned with you as a total being. So three things are basic in the process of self-actualization. First, being centered. As you are centered, if you take a point using a compass, you draw circles. You can have many circumferences. Just by varying the distance between circumference and the center, you can draw many different circumferences. These circumferences are like your work, your daily activities that you do. But in doing so, as I said, you may go to the bank, you may go to the market, you may go to the business place, you may go to the shopping mall. Wherever you go, you never forget to take your key of the house. Key of the house is your center, because ultimately after finishing the job, you must return to home. And if you have a camera system on your installed, so wherever you are, from there you can see your place. When I am in my business place, I can see whatsoever is happening. Even from my bed, I can log into my system and see whatsoever is happening. Technology has provided this. I can listen to the whole conversation between my employee and this customer. I do not need to be there. So what it is, this is the kind of connection you require between your center and whatever activity you are doing. Whatever activity you are doing, many people who have done in the so-called worldly language cheating, they are always welcomed. There is no remorse or ill feeling. A certain things needed to be cleared, it cleared. Many things happen like that in a day-to-day basis. If someone has done something so-called in the worldly language wrong to you or cheated you, you do not want to listen, talk to that person. It is said, do not have anything to do with that person. The person may have done certain things because of certain reasons, may not be his habit. Or even if it is a habit, then he has to change. So you always keep your key wherever you go. Tantra is concerned with your total growth, not partial. It concerned with you as a whole being. So three things are basic. First, you are centered. You take the key. You are balanced in dealing with anyone that you are dealing. And thirdly, you are at ease. Always in the middle, without any effort. If there is effort, then it is not balanced. You must be at ease in talking to anyone. Man of authority or man of no authority. At ease in the universe, at home in the existence, and then many things will follow. This is the basic requirement. Because unless this need is fulfilled, you are only a man with a name. You are a man with possibility, with seed. You are not actually a man, you have not blossomed. You can be. You are a potential. But the potentiality has to attain to actuality. Every seed is capable of becoming a flower, but that does not mean each seed can become a flower. There is a process for seed to be planted in a well-prepared soil, nourished and nurtured. Sometimes you have to nourish and nurture a plant for a long time. I have a plant which was bought a couple years back. At one point, that plant almost died. There was no leaves, just a small piece. It was nourished and nurtured. A couple weeks ago, it started flowering. Beautiful flower. This is important. Only this much for this morning. We will explain. There is another question. Kindly explain the difference between contemplation, concentration, and meditation. There is another question relating to this sutra, the second. When you are lying down, Concentrate on the silver thread, lotus-like thread in the middle of your spine, and be centered. The person has asked a question relating to that. It's a kind of a personal question. I just saw it this morning, but I have to rephrase it to make it a generalized question so I can respond to this question in a generalized way. Only this much for this morning. Until we meet again, take care and do have a pleasant day.